Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to maybe spice up or work on improving your improvisational skills on the piano with just three very easy things to do, easy concepts to kind of work on. Maybe you're at the point with your piano playing where you know your chords, but you're just not comfortable playing them in such a way that it won't pass like a chunking out of the chords. Maybe you want to have a little more fun with it and make something sound just a little prettier. So I'm going to talk about three main things that you can do to increase your improvisational skills and just by reading a chord chart. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is octaves. I think that the biggest way that you can immediately improve your improv is to not just play one note for your bass, or to not play in your left as your left hand, or to not play full chords with your left hand, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you add octaves, it frees up a lot of that the middle register of your series of notes for whatever that chord is, and it gives it to where you can give it to the voice, whoever's singing, or to other instruments, or to your right hand. Because if you just play two chords with one hand, it kind of muddies things up. Open up this octave and you get a lower, more rich note, and that's immediately, so the difference between this, if you're playing that, immediately with the octaves, you have this. It just sounds so much more rich and full. So that's tip number one. What I mean by playing octaves with your left hand, and this is going to sound higher, but is not just playing like one note with your left hand, or even playing a chord with your left hand, but it's playing the entire octave. So if you're going to play a C major chord, play C and C, and that's all you play with your left hand. Play F and F, and that's all you play with your left hand. Or if it's A minor, you play A and A. So that automatically opens up a ton of your sound like I was talking about. And now tip number two is going to be a little bit trickier to explain. I'm going to break it down into a couple parts of tip number two. But it is making your right hand play more than just chords. And there's normally people will either have two different mindsets when trying to do this. Whenever I teach this, if they want to make it very blocky, which means you still stay within your chord structure, but you can add different notes to make your right hand sound a little more interesting, or you make it very melodic. So this is what it sounds like. So these are the two methods for tip number two. The first method is this is the block method. So if you're just playing your C, E, G, your F, A, C, your A, C, E, and your G, B, D for this key of C, that's great. But we can add some of these other notes like this in every single one of our chords. Cannot add B natural to this F chord though, or in any four chords. You can't add that fourth suspension because it's a tritone. We don't want that. So you can add the second there. You can do that in every single one, so it can really sound really cool. You can sounds kind of blocky, but it definitely makes it more interesting. And then the second part of that is something melodic, and you can really have some melody in that block method, but there's some people that take it to a whole nother level. So if you really think melodically, you can play that same progression, and you can just play based on what's in the key. So I have a video out that's an intro to the circle of fifths where I kind of explain how you can know what notes to play in any given key. Now obviously C major is super easy because it's only the white keys. As long as you hit a white key, you're totally fine. So if you want to play something melodic, you can just think in your head and like listen to a melody that you hear with this chord progression and try to play that on the piano. So I'm hearing right now something like, would be really cool for interludes in between maybe a chorus and a verse, or if you're just trying to play some fun stuff on the piano, that's going to be a huge way to step up your improv game. And then the third and final tip to make your improv piano skills just go through the roof is really just to spice things up a little bit. So how you can do that is by adding grace notes, octave displacement. So when you're trying to play things, rather than just stay in the same octave, maybe when you get to that 5 chord and you're playing that big G chord, you can go, and it takes a little more coordination, but I'll show you what I mean. And then talked about tip number 3, where we went and we said just to spice things up, just add a little bit of flair to it. The first one was I said grace notes. So what that means is all of your major chords in this key that we're working with, and this will work in any key as well. I'm just using C because it's an easier example. But in the third of each chord, you can hit the flat right underneath it to give a really cool bluesy type grace note. So you can, so that E flat to E, you just go, see that? You don't want to hold the pedal down for that. You can go, you lift up, otherwise you're going to have this, and it's just not going to sound good. So you want to go, same with F chord, hit that A flat to A. Go back to the C, and then to the G major chord, you can hit that B flat to the B. So try doing that slowly. A cool exercise you can do is you can go to this G chord, you can go. You're basically just going and you're hitting that pinky. It's a cool exercise. You can go G, B flat B, you can go D, F, A flat A to C, and then C, E flat E to G. So it would sound like this. And that really gets you to where you feel comfortable. And then the last thing of that spicing it up, the 2 parts to it, was using octaves to make it just sound more full. So when you're playing, don't be afraid to, especially when you're maybe hitting that minor chord, to be able to go. Or with that 5 chord, don't be afraid to play the chords in different octaves. You can go. Don't be afraid to move the octave. That takes a little bit more coordination. So maybe you just work on it with 1 chord at a time to get to that point. So if you use those 3 steps, and I'm going to go over them again. Octaves in your left hand, really open up that sound, open up everything that you're doing. Don't be afraid to really even go down for some of those low octaves from time to time. That's tip number 1, step 1. Step number 2 is to do more with your right hand. Don't be afraid to play different notes, C, D, G, C, F, and G. Really play around within those chords if you're just going to play triads with that right hand. Really makes it sound just so much more interesting, and it just sounds a lot more appealing. And then the flip side of that is if you wanted to do more of a melodic thing, if you wanted to play not in the chord at all, you can just figure out what works in that key. For instance, C major, all the white keys work. So if you play something that sounds pretty and you like it, it's going to sound good if you like it. That in interludes and really just if you want to just do like a piano type improv solo for fun, that would be a great way to use that melodic style. And then lastly is just to add just a little bit of spice. So those little grace notes we talked about on that flat to E flat to E, G, A flat to A, and B flat to B, in those C, the F, and the G chords. You can do this in any key though. This does work in any key following the same method. Also, just don't be afraid to displace the octave in your right hand. If you're playing something and then you want to get how to use some melody and block chords and octave displacement all in that one method. On that G chord, I went. Melody, block chords, octave displacement, spice, and octaves in my left hand. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I promise you, if you follow these, this will work. Many students of mine have gone from playing just chunky like this to being able to play various genres of music and improv in them. So really just comment below if you have any questions about anything. I'd love to help you guys out and maybe even post a follow-up video answering any questions about improv on the piano like this. But be sure you like and subscribe and follow just for more content like this. Hopefully, going to put out quite a bit more in the near future. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it.